There you see the final score. Arsenal 4-0 winners. All 4 of the Gunners' goals coming in a 13-minute stretch in the second half. For more on this, we welcome in Stewart, Robson, and Alex Kirkland to the show. But Craig, I'll start with you. 13 minutes. That's all it took for Arsenal to do their damage in this game.
Well, we sometimes see this from Atleti, don't we? That they're off colour, they're off pace. They are a little bit in awe sometimes of the opposition. I don't know why, although Arsenal are strong. And really, they were pretty uncompetitive for a lot of it tonight. Yeah, Arsenal didn't create a lot in the first half, but they really dominated. Then, they make these changes and then they're wide open. They get done from set pieces, they get done from open play. But I think you've got to give credit to Arsenal. They are, definitely in England, they're the strongest package at the moment. Whether they're going to be the strongest package in the Champions League remains to be seen. That's a different story. But their backline's as good as anybody. They've got strong middle of the park and they've got players to come in. Gyökeres worked his socks off. I think the Arsenal fans are taking to him. Got a couple of goals, albeit they were tap-ins, but hey, it's a goal scorer's goal. And all in all, Saka was a threat at times on that right-hand side. Hankel couldn't quite handle him, particularly in the first half. So yeah, I think from Arsenal's perspective, they ground a result out at the weekend against Fulham. They have, completely outplayed, if we're being honest, Atletico Madrid. So they're going to feel pretty good about where they are right now.
How big a statement for you from Arsenal? I mean, you don't usually put up 4 against the Diego Simeone side.
Diego Simeone's size from the past, I suppose. And when I say from the past, I'm probably talking maybe 3-4 years back. Honestly, today, as much as this is a conversation about Arsenal, it cannot be just a one-sided conversation, because what I really noticed from this match is the difference between where Arsenal is and where Atletico Madrid is. And it's 2 completely different levels. And as much as I like Diego Simeone, and as much as I like the fight and the personality and the character that you associate with Atletico Madrid, you also need to bring quality. And I look at Atletico Madrid and I think, you got Julian Alvarez, he looks elite. The rest, not so much. The rest is players that are serviceable, but they're not at the elite level. And, mind you, physically, they cannot compete. When it comes to the sequence of play that led to the Martinelli goal, Luis Kelly starts running. And he is running at a different speed, at a different pace than everybody else from Atletico Madrid. And it's so easy to see Pablo Barrios struggling. It's so easy to see Conor Gallagher struggling with speed. And then you take that into the attacking third for Arsenal and how much speed they have in wide areas for Martinelli and Bukayo Saka, and how difficult it was for Atletico Madrid to defend those areas. So you give credit to Arsenal in exploiting those areas and knowing full well that, yes, they can take advantage of set pieces. That's well reported from Arsenal. But they also know that in front of them, they had a team that did not have the resources to really trouble Arsenal. And in doing that, you just go press them high, you go force turnovers, you get in their faces, and for that period of 13 minutes, they did that time and time and time again. They put the match away 4-0. Impressive for Arsenal. For Atletico Madrid, if they needed it, I don't know that they did need it, but if they needed it, reality check.
Robbo, from an Arsenal perspective, were there any boxes that weren't checked today?
Not really. I mean, they did everything right. They were, and I'm going to use 2 words that have just been mentioned there. Atletico were uncompetitive. That's because Arsenal pressed them well and they created openings. But also, they were physically far stronger. And Ali just said that. They were physically far stronger, so they could close the ball down easily. They could run past Atleti players at will. They were much too strong in midfield. As Craig also said, Saka down that right-hand side for the first 20 minutes could go past Hancho so easily. Everything was right for us. They didn't play at their very best, but they didn't need to. They were solid defensively. They won the ball back in good areas. They created opportunities without creating too many in that first half. But once they got that head of steam, once they got the crowd behind them, there was no stopping them. Set plays, general play, they were far, far better than Atleti. So good performance from Arsenal.
I think we saw, and Koke's, he's been a great player for them. And he was out the side for a bit, but needs must. He's came back in, he's done well and played in the Madrid derby and all that sort of stuff. But Arsenal always play free in there, and I think, they got exposed in there today. With Alvarez playing further up along with Sorloth, it was Barrios and Koke basically against Rice, Zubimendi and Eze dropping in there. Now, that's hard enough for two guys that can get around the field. That's hard enough if it was Gallagher and Barrios, two younger players, two players that will run all day. But when it's Barrios and Koke and they have three in there and you're getting flooded, that particularly against a side as good as Arsenal, then that's difficult, Seb. And I think we saw that be exposed in the middle of the park for long periods today.
Alex, in the past, we've seen Atleti, Diego Simeone's team, compete against the best in Europe. Are they no longer kind of capable of that?
Yeah, listening to the Atletico players speaking after the game, Seb, they sounded really quite despondent. Koke, the captain, was talking about, yes, they had their moments, they had some chances, but I think there's a bit of soul-searching going on at Atletico about what is going on with them away from home, because we're seeing it here in the Champions League, we've seen it in La Liga as well. I think it's 6 games away from home this season, and they haven't got a win. Their difference between the team they are at the Metropolitano, we saw that on the last Champions League match day. They won 5-1 against Eintracht Frankfurt, and what they're doing away, losing here 4-0. The difference is really quite stark, and the sort of the extent of the collapse today. I mean, 3 of those goals came in 6 minutes. I don't think Atletico have ever conceded 3 goals in 6 minutes in the Champions League before. And yeah, I agree. I think it is a little bit of a reality check. You know, they would want to be a team that can go, if not all the way, then certainly go deep into the Champions League, into the knockout stages, coming up against, you know, arguably the informed team in Europe right now. And like I say, there's a real gap there between these two sides and the kind of levels they can reach.
Simeone is not going to change. He's not going to change for you, for me, or for anybody else.
Yeah.
He is who he is and who he has been. And the problem is that his player personnel, what he has available, doesn't match what he is. At the core, he is a guy that likes to fight, that likes to engage in the physical part of the game, that likes to be able to get in people's faces, that likes the grind. And you're kind of looking at this team and it's like, no, Craig just alluded to it. Koke has been a legendary player for Atletico Madrid, a critically important player for this club. But he can't get on the face of Luis Skelly and stay with him, or where Declan Rice and stay with him. That's physically cannot compete. He just can't. And so you can no longer grind games because you don't have the personnel to do it. You can no longer just absorb pressure because you don't have the personnel to do it. It's not Diego Godin playing in the back. No, that's just not happening. It's not within the personality of this group to do it. So you got to find different ways to go about winning matches. And you look at the way that they played against, say, for example, Real Madrid. And yes, it was at home. And yes, they're a different animal at home. And you see them pressing higher up the field. And you see them taking chances going forward. And you kind of go, well, they have it in them. But in order for them to express that consistently, Simeone has got to free them to do that. The tendency of this club is to take a step back. It's rare when you see this team taking a step forward. And even today, even if they had taken a step forward against Arsenal, going in a back and forth, that still doesn't allow them to get a result because they just don't have the players that can match up physically.
What does it say about, you know, Johnny Cardozo's he's injured. He's not available at the moment. He's one of the summer signings. But what does it say to you as a midfielder who was a relatively big money signing in Conor Gallagher, that a guy in his, what is he, 33, Koke, something like that. He's a good passer of the ball, but he just can't get it. What does that say as one of the signings where quite a few quid went out 18 months ago, that an away from home game at a team that's going to be as physical as Arsenal, that you're on the bench. Now that's recruitment, and I'm absolutely sure, and Alex can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure Diego Simeone has a big say in the recruitment at Atletico Madrid when players are signed. And quite a few of those players that they've signed and spent money on are either not available or on the bench. So that goes down to decisions. And when you're signing players and you're laying out this kind of money, for these kind of games, you have to expect to be in the team. So, you know, we can talk about, you know, Koke can't get around the field anymore and he can't do this, but they've signed players to address this. They knew they were going to lose, or they lost Rodrigo de Paul, who was a grafter in there, a World Cup winner, and they've signed players to try and address these issues that were going to come up. And yet these very same players, at their moment of need in the big games, particularly away from home when you're going to be under pressure, are on the bench.
And to your point about recruitment, very quickly there, think about the players. Alex Baena, Thiago Almada. Are these players, when you picture Diego Simeone as a manager, are this the players that come to mind? This sort of player, this sort of style. So it doesn't match. And so I go back to something that I've said about Atletico Madrid over the last couple of seasons. They're in between. They're neither here nor there. They're not an attacking team, but they're not a defending team. And when you're in between, you get found out, particularly and especially by good teams like Arsenal.
But don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating for Conor Gallagher to be in the side as somebody who should be, he should be. I'm just saying, you have spent that money in this position, and he's one of the players who plays now and again, but regularly is on the bench, particularly in some of the big games.
Yeah, on the recruitment thing, Simeone has a say for sure, but we've also seen a number of clashes over the years between Simeone and the club on recruitment. Of course, it was Andrea Berta, now at Arsenal, who was the guy at Atletico in charge of recruitment. A player like Conor Gallagher. I mean, Simeone has never found a place for Conor Gallagher in the team. He never picks him in central midfield. When he does, it tends to be out wide, or more often than not, on the bench. It seems to be he's not a player that Simeone is entirely comfortable with. It's not the first time we've seen that, where a player's come into Atletico, even for big money, and Simeone seemingly doesn't fancy them. So there's always been a bit of friction there on signings. In terms of Simeone's future, we know the bottom line for him, which is and has always been Champions League qualification. He's done that every single season. He gets them into the top four and occasionally beyond that. And a couple of times they've done incredibly well to win the league. Further in the future, there are maybe some big changes coming up at Atletico Madrid in terms of the ownership. There's talk about US investment coming in. We know that the CEO, Miguel Angel Gilmarin, has been looking for a long time to maybe move aside. And so when some of those big changes come in terms of the ownership, maybe there'll be a different kind of pressure on Simeone. But like I say, from the club's point of view, what they demand is Champions League qualification to get the money coming in. And he delivers that year after year after year.
But this kind of makes me laugh a little bit, Alex, in the sense that, this is, is this not smoke and mirrors? Shouldn't he be getting in the Champions League places, having spent... And I know there was a period Atletico Madrid did not, but I'm sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure they were not spending the type of money they are spending now. Athletic Club are not spending that. Villarreal are not spending that. Real Sociedad, who are having a bad season, are not spending that. All the clubs you would expect to be in the round are not spending that kind of money. Nowhere near it. Absolutely nowhere near it. So they should comfortably be in the top four. The big question is, with the kind of outlay they make, it seems, in the last 3 years, season after season, shouldn't we expect a little bit more? Shouldn't we expect more pressure on Real Madrid and Barcelona? Shouldn't we expect maybe a better style of football? Although it has got better, it is topsy-turvy. 1 week it's exciting, 1 week it's open, the next it's what we saw today. So I just feel with the amount they are laying out, just to say, well, I'm getting you in the top four, when they are outspending the other teams out with Barca and Real Madrid in Spain and some, that's a bit of a, one of those to me, smoke and mirrors.
Let's bring it back to Arsenal. Do want to focus on the winners here a little bit. Robbo, how big, not just for Gyökeres the player, but maybe as we think of Arsenal's title chances, whether it's Premier League or Champions League, were those 2 goals today for Gyökeres?
Well, he needed the goals because he's not been in great goal-scoring form, but as Craig said, he's working hard. The crowd are like him at the moment. They're giving him a lot of love. He only touched the ball 9 times in the first half and not once in the box, so they're still not using him enough. They're still not playing the ball into him quite quickly enough. They go out wide before they try and get it into the box. Then there probably wasn't enough crosses in the first half when they did have good possession. But he's a player, I think, that when the ball's rolled into his feet, he can turn defenders, he can run down the side of defenders. He's got all the attributes. At the moment, it's not quite working for him, but he's working hard. The 2 goals, I'm sure, will give him confidence, even if they were just bundled in. That's what centre-forwards do. But I think Arsenal need to use him that little bit more, get the ball rolled into him in and around the box, and you'll see him score some really good individual goals, because that's what he did when I saw him play for Coventry, and that's what he did when he was in Portugal.
We just saw that graphic, all the names, not just the 11, but coming off the bench. Is it a deep enough squad that we can talk about a chase for both titles?
Well, they've never won the Champions League, been in the final. But I think that's a tricky one. I think don't try and run before you can walk. I mean, it's been over 20 years since they've won a Premier League title. I think that's first and foremost for them. They've been very close the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, the answer is yes. But I think, for me, the top of the tree for them has to be the Premier League, the domestic title. And at the moment, they are the best package. Yes, City are playing some decent football. Yes, City are heavily reliant on Erling Haaland, who you may have noticed is still in great form. and all that sort of stuff. But Arsenal have got the best package at the moment. Liverpool, we've talked about their issues. We've talked about Arne Slot, how he's struggling to figure it out. Arsenal are strong in every position. Whether that's going to be deep enough to win the Premier League and the Champions League, I think that's a big ask. They certainly have enough to win the Premier League. He has all the tools, and he's been given all the tools he needs to go out and deliver the Premier League title. It is on him this year, big time, more than ever, to win the Premier League.
If there were ever a season for Arsenal in which depth is not a question, it's this season. Now, I don't know how much of a priority it will be to win Champions League, given everything that Craig just mentioned there. But if you were in the quarterfinals, if you're in the semifinals of the Champions League, which is something that we expect Arsenal to be in, there is a scenario in which you look at Arsenal and go, their squad is deeper than most teams in Europe, if not all teams.
Is there anything missing when you look at it?
I don't see anything missing. I don't see this team and go, man, they have a glaring problem. The problem that Mikel Arteta is going to have is actually finding places for players on the field when they're all healthy. Because let's not forget, Martin Odegaard is not out there. You have Madueke, who has been good when he has played. He's not out there. You have had injuries. Bukayo Saka has had injury issues. Eze hasn't played all the time. If you have everybody available, who do you play? That's the bigger question. It's a great problem to have, but that's a bigger question for Arsenal rather than the question of whether they have enough depth. I don't think depth is ever the question for Arsenal this season. Other seasons, maybe, not this season.
I think the gauge is always the Premier League, and we talked to Steve McManaman about this, about Real Madrid a few years ago, and he said La Liga title, although they've been very successful with the Champions League, of course they have, and the fans may love it, it's always about the La Liga title first and foremost. And I think from Arsenal's perspective, that is going to be their bread and butter. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the Champions League, when it gets past this stage, is a knockout competition. PSG could roll up like they did last year. They were pretty average up till Christmas time, and then they were the best team in Europe. They could rock up. You have a bad night at the office, you get knocked out. You get Bayern, they have a good night, you get knocked out. You maybe get a Barca who sort the defensive issues out, you're knocked out the competition. It doesn't make you a bad side. Whereas I just feel over the 38 games of any season, any league, whether it's La Liga, the Bundesliga, the Premier League, or whatever league it is, it's just a great test of your durability and your squad.